Hello and welcome to the Vacayability Rest Stop podcast. Vacayability is a review website where people with disabilities or unique abilities can rate and review places based upon accessibility. Accessibility doesn't just mean physical, but includes all types of accessibility needs: physical, blind and low vision, deaf and hard of hearing, sensory friendly, allergy friendly, and more. Head to www.vacayability.com to check it out. Each episode, take a break from your norm, and we will be talking about a different accessibility or inclusion tourism topic with a different guest. I am today's host, Natasha Graves, the founder of Vacayability. Today, we are talking about an experience with chronic illness and social media with our guest, Allie. Allie is a 17-year-old chronically ill influencer, small business owner, and advocate. So, without further ado, let's welcome Allie. Hey,
Hi,
Allie.
thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. It's an honor. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Allie, as you just heard. Um, and yeah, I'm 17 and I've been chronically ill since I was 4. I have a service dog named Chandler Bing, because I love
Aw,
friends. I have a big family with 3 sisters, 3 brothers, and um, lots of nieces and nephews. I run a small business called Hooks and Spoons where I sell my crochet products from home, and I also sell some chronic illness themed stickers that I design.
that's pretty cool. So, can you explain? I know you said you've been sick since you were about 4 years old. Can you explain some of your diagnoses to us? Just the ones that you want to disclose, no
Yeah.
pressure, and how they sort of affect your daily life or affect your family life. Because I know you said you have a big family.
Mhm. Um. So my first chronic illness that I developed when I was 4 is short bowel syndrome. I developed short bowel syndrome. I had 2 hereditary tumors in my abdomen that caused a volvulus and twisted my small intestine. So they had to remove everything but 25 centimeters of my small intestine.
Wow.
Um, so that's like my big one that can affect everything because I
Yeah.
don't have the small intestine to absorb the nutrition that I need to live.
Right.
So I've been on tube feeds and TPN off and on since then. I'm
Okay.
currently on TPN now, but for a while I was off of it and just doing tube feeds and eating by mouth.
Okay.
Um,
Can you explain what TPN is for some of our listeners that don't
yeah,
know what TPN is?
TPN is total parental nutrition, so it's basically IV nutrition. So I have a central line in my chest that's like a more permanent IV, and I get all my nutrition through there so that it doesn't have to go through my gut.
Wow. Well, that's great that you can
Um,
still get nutrition.
yeah, it's been very helpful. As I said, that kind of can affect everything. So I have like some comorbid conditions from short bowel. I've struggled with galactic acidosis, which is a rare neurologic syndrome that happens when high carb feedings would, in my case, sit in my colon. My colon's damaged from some past surgeries, so it doesn't
Okay.
move very well. So my carbs from tube feedings or eating by mouth would sit in my colon and ferment and um, would give me altered mental status or mimic like when you're drunk on alcohol. um, so I would go through times a lot before we knew what it was or when it was not controlled, where I had slurred speech, I couldn't walk myself, or I would sleep all day and then wake up in the night and be wide awake.
Yeah. And those
Um,
are pretty like
but now
scary,
that we know what
scary
that is,
things.
yeah, we had a good while where I um, was going in and out of, being a normal kid and then not being myself at all before we found out what it was, thanks to one doctor that wasn't even my doctor that told us about it. And now I
Oh
just take
wow.
monthly antibiotics that keep it under control.
Wow. That's such a like an easy fix for something that's
Yeah.
so scary and so major.
Yeah, and it's a pretty rare thing, so a lot of people wouldn't think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
also get, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I also get chronic kidney stones because of my short bowel and the way that my body breaks down food. And it's a lot of chemistry that I barely even understand at times, but I basically make stones a lot. So my kidneys always have really tiny stones. And I take a ton of calcium with a tiny bit of food when I do eat. Um, and I've had one kidney stone removal surgery because I just had so many, and the pain can be pretty debilitating. If you've ever
Yeah.
had a kidney stone, it's compared to childbirth, it's not fun.
Yeah. It's the worst.
Um,
I get kidney stones and kidney what they call like kidney gravel, so like the smaller stones. I get them
mm-hmm.
often and
Yeah,
it's not only annoying, but it's like super painful.
yeah, it is. My surgeon compared my kidneys to like a beach with such tiny stones, but so many of them.
That's crazy.
Um, But besides short bowel, my other main diagnoses were diagnosed in 2020 actually. I had symptoms for a while as I got older, but they didn't get worse and we didn't start seeking answers till 2020, like early 2020. Um, so after a long fight of being told I need to see a therapist, I need to exercise more, growing
Yeah.
pains, all that fun stuff you get told as a teenager, I was finally diagnosed with POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Yep.
Um, and POTS, as I got older, became pretty debilitating, especially when we didn't know what was happening and my heart rate was going crazy, super dizzy all the time. I was finally able to go see a specialist for POTS, and I was also diagnosed with HEDS, which is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, uh,
Mhm.
which is a collagen disorder, which made a lot of sense with my joint problems I've had since I was pretty young. I get a lot of hip dislocations and other joint problems. I
Yeah.
use mobility aids to help me with that. And my service dog Chandler is also a mobility dog who can help me with things like that.
Yeah, that's great
And
that
then
you
right
have
now we're
Chandler.
just in the process of testing for mast cell activation syndrome, which also goes with EDS, but I'm
Right.
not fully diagnosed right now.
Yeah, yeah. EDS, POTS, and MCAS are like the three that seem to always go together. And I have all three,
Yeah.
so I definitely understand. And I know it takes such a long time to get diagnosed, especially with POTS
Yeah.
and some of these comorbidities. And then even when you're diagnosed, it takes a long time to sort of find the right treatments that work for you. And you
Yeah,
sort of
it really
alluded to this
does.
a little bit. Yeah. You sort of alluded to this when you were just talking about your diagnoses that, there's sometimes some medical gaslighting and, saying that,
Mhm.
um, you're just a teenager, you have anxiety and things like that. And they can be like super traumatic. So, and I know you've gone through that. So can
Yeah.
you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Um, so medical gaslighting has actually been happening since I was pretty young. More with my mom trying to advocate for me. We've dealt with a lot of sexist doctors. And then as I got older, dealing with doctors that, put all teenage girls. And because I don't have that small intestine to absorb all the liquid that I was putting in my body for POTS, that was making me really sick. And so we were trying to get someone on board with letting me try IV fluids. And it was just a lot of basically me going there and begging her for help and not getting it.
Yeah.
Um, So, yeah, I've dealt with a lot of that. Most recently in November, I was admitted for 2 weeks because I've been having a lot more motility problems, and that's why I went back on TBN. And basically, um, I was always feeling sick from trying to eat, and I lost a ton of weight and wasn't having doctors helping me. So we talked to my main GI first and dealt with a lot of that, and that was definitely a traumatic appointment. I was telling her the insane amount of pain I was in trying to eat and do different things to help, and she told me that it couldn't be as bad as I'm saying it is because that just doesn't make sense. I was very upset and at that point and ended up yelling at her for not listening to me and telling me that my pain can't be as bad as I'm saying it is.
Yeah.
And this is before I started TPN, and we were basically asking to start TPN because I was at such a low weight.
Right.
And she was basically telling me to just keep forcing tube feeds in my G tube.
Oh, wow.
Even though it was causing a lot of problems. And my dad was sitting in on the appointment that time. And after we were done talking to her, he said basically the same exact thing me and my mom said. But then right after he said it, my doctor listened and put me on TPN, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, that's super frustrating.
Yeah. I've definitely dealt with a lot of medical gaslighting, and as traumatic as it can be, it's also taught me a lot of things because I used to be insanely shy at doctor appointments and would barely talk for myself or say what I wanted to. And now, after all of what I've been through, I'm definitely more bold and able to tell doctors what I really think.
Yeah. I'm glad that you not only had the guts to like advocate for yourself, but have that confidence sort of behind it and say like, look, I am in pain and this is real for me. And
Yeah.
but it shouldn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't have to be like your dad, you know, giving that extra information. It shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel for you because medical gaslighting is just like such a traumatic thing. So, you've talked about I've looked at your social media a little bit, and you've talked about medical gaslighting and some of your treatments and things like that. And your experience just with chronic illness on your social media platforms. So, can you tell me how that came about? And I know you have a large following, so tell me how that came about and why you decided sort of like documenting things on social media.
Yeah. So actually, my Instagram account first started out as an account for my service dog Chandler. When I first got him as a puppy, I wanted to create an account to kind of track his training and his progress, helping me. Kind of so my personal Instagram account wouldn't be all him.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, and I started following more accounts with service dogs, and a lot of those people had chronic illnesses and would post about their experiences, and I thought that was really cool. And I started reading a lot of different opinions of different disabled peoples and learning what ableism is and all those things, and I really got really interested in that and slowly just started posting a little more about myself. And I changed my Instagram name from Chandler Doodle to Chronic Alley or Chronically. And then just the more I went, I think I just really enjoyed posting, and I had a lot of other people messaging me saying how I was helping them, sharing my story and my experiences. And I've met a lot of amazing people through it.
Yeah, that's great, especially because sometimes with chronic illness and you have, um, sometimes you're not able to work or go to school, so you really get isolated sometimes. So I feel like it's such a good way to have like a community when you have like that social media presence. And I feel like also it's kind of like an outlet. It's like if you're going through something that's sort of like, you know, people write or do certain things, you can always just like go to your social media as an outlet.
Yeah.
But then you're also inspiring people and educating people and sort of like bringing that awareness so that other people can help be diagnosed or get information about, you know, different types of chronic illnesses. So I think it's such a
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah, it's I've learned so much. I actually met a lot of people with POTS and EDS before I had any idea that I had those things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would have ever gotten diagnosed if I didn't know anyone with those things and they didn't tell me, oh, that sounds a lot like POTS. Maybe you should go to the doctor about that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's such a good way to help advocate for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
especially when there are issues and chronic illnesses with such long diagnostic delays. You know, you can always say to your doctor, even though there is that like underlying gaslighting, you
Mm-hmm.
can sort of say to your doctor like, look, could it be this? Just because you have those shared experiences with other people.
Yeah.
So, with such a large following on your social media platform, your Instagram, do you ever feel like pressure to share things because, like, you think people expect that, you know, you need to post often, or, you know, sometimes not to share things or disclose certain things because you don't want to?
Yeah, I definitely do feel the pressure to share every detail, because when you're sharing such personal things like medical trauma and just all these personal things that are happening in your life and you're sharing it with a bunch of strangers, people start to just expect those things from you. And I definitely have some boundaries when it comes to my account. Um, I really love that Instagram lets you do a close friend story because there's certain things about my health stuff that I don't want just every stranger on the internet
Right,
knowing about me.
right.
Um, and so I love that I can have a list of accounts on Instagram that I trust and want to update them on myself, and I can put that on the close friend story. And I also have a highlight on my page called Boundaries, and I just put a couple little things about it like, um, please don't expect me to share every detail, that some things are personal and some things I'm not comfortable sharing yet, and
Yeah.
I may never get there with things, and I may get where I want to share those things.
Yeah. I think
And
that's so
also,
important.
yeah, and I think having that highlight has helped a lot. My followers understand me and the different boundaries I have. I also put on that highlight that trauma dump is trauma dumping is hard for me, and I would appreciate it if people wouldn't do that, especially talking about sensitive topics, coming into my DMs with a 3 paragraph message of all the bad things that have happened to them in the hospital can be um, definitely hard and triggering at times when you've been through medical trauma yourself.
Yeah.
But having that there, I think, has really helped make me a little more comfortable sharing what I am sharing.
Yeah. I mean, I think boundaries are just so important in general. And
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I've recently started doing now that my own personal platform has started growing. And I think now that so many things are digital, people feel like that you're accessible in so many different ways. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something I struggle with. You know, I don't want to be accessible, you know, on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and my email and, you know, my business email and my phone
Yeah.
number. Like there's just some things like I there need to be those boundaries, and I feel like it's so important to not only set those boundaries for yourself, but make them widely known so people can adjust their expectations
Mm-hmm.
in regards to interacting with you and not getting upset when you don't meet those expectations. Like, that's on you. You know what my boundaries are, so that's kind of like
Yeah.
on you to adjust based off of that. So I think that's super super important, especially now that so many things are digital. So I think that's
Yeah.
such a great thing. um so anything else you want to talk about in terms of like using a platform or using social media before we shift gears a little bit?
Um, I think that was about everything. I'm just super grateful that I did come into the chronic illness community because you'll never find any kind of support like that.
Yeah.
Like anything, anytime something happened and I post about it, I just have an overwhelming amount of people messaging me, doing whatever they can to help me. And I will always appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I really started doing these podcast series, these series, because I want to, people that don't necessarily have knowledge of some of these things to be aware, but also because
Mm-hmm.
it's the chronic illness community is such a tight knit community. And a very supportive community because we are sort of empathetic of other people's problems because we go through similar problems. So I feel like it's such a good. I mean, that's the plus side of everything being so digital now is you can have that community and it doesn't have to be like a face to face type of community. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
your followers are like from all over the world, and you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have that if that platform wasn't available. So thinking about all over the world, when you're traveling, since vacayability is about going places, have you
Mm-hmm.
ever experienced any challenges in terms of like accessibility while traveling?
Yeah, I definitely have. We travel quite a bit. I would say most of the time to go to different hospitals
Yeah,
that are far away. But my family also loved to go on vacation pre-COVID.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, right.
First thing that comes to my mind um, about traveling challenges, I would say we went to Virginia. The first time we went to Virginia, that's where my POTS specialist is. That's about 9 hours from where I am. Um, so we went there. I was at the hospital all day because I was having my week of testing when I was getting diagnosed for POTS.
Yeah,
And I wanted to get some coffee somewhere before I went to the hotel and crashed for the day.
yeah,
So my mom found like a little cafe close by the hospital in our hotel, and we went in there. I went in with my mom and my service dog Chandler, and ended up we got our coffee. We sat down. Chandler tucked under the table like he always does, and then we had one of the employees there come and didn't even walk up to us and like say anything nicely. He from across the restaurant started yelling at us
oh my goodness.
that we needed to get outside because of my dog. Um, and so I started explaining the laws. Chandler's my task trained service dog for my disability. He's allowed to be in here. And he just kept yelling that it doesn't matter. And I'm like, I can show you the federal laws, and like would not let me explain the laws. It was very crazy. And I at some point would have just gone outside, except that it was so hot. And
Yeah,
if you have POTS, he is not good for POTS at
no,
all.
not at
Flare
all.
your symptoms like crazy. So we fought back and forth for a little bit, me explaining all the laws, and then he just was relentless and would not give up. So we ended up leaving. So we just left. And again, with the chronic illness community always supporting me, I made a big post the next day about everything that happened, and I tagged the Instagram of the restaurant chain so everyone could know who it was, and said everything that happened and how disappointed I was. And so many of my Instagram followers tagged the restaurant in the comments
That's
a
so
million
great.
times. It was amazing. I was so incredibly surprised. And the restaurant's Instagram ended up messaging me and giving me the contact information for like public relations.
Yeah,
And so I was able to talk to them, and I had a phone call with them and told them everything that happened. Explained all the laws. He was very apologetic and could not believe one of his employees did that. And it was actually a manager who did that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was crazy. And he ended up sending me some gift cards, and then
Of course.
said next time we go to Virginia, he wanted to meet me. So the next time we went for my appointment, I emailed him and let him know, and we met up. And it was really good. He apologized and got to see Chandler and how well behaved he is. And he actually told me that the employee that yelled at us got fired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as stressful as it was, at least it did get taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've had other things not as big as that, but, you know, having trouble with my mobility aids, or we went to go on a cruise with my family, and, you know, you have to go through security and put all your bags up. And I was trying to tell the security guard that I couldn't take my backpack off that had my feeding tube bag in it, that they could look through it, but I needed to keep it on me. And they kept talking over me and not letting me finish, and would just keep yelling to take your backpack off.
That's so ridiculous.
It was like, if you would just let me talk, you would realize that I can't take my backpack off. And eventually my dad coming in again, just he speaks so much louder than I do, and he was like, she can't take it off, it's connected to you. Or connected to her. And then they were like, oh, okay. It was very awkward.
That's so ridiculous. Yeah, and it's so challenging, just getting people to understand. And that's one of the reasons why I started Vacayability, not only for people to, you know, write reviews about places and make sure that it's accessible, or make sure you don't go to a place that's not accessible or have staff that don't care, but for businesses themselves to get an understanding of things that they're doing wrong in terms of this community. We go to cafes, even though we're chronically ill. We go to cafes, we go to hotels, we travel. We're not all bedridden, complete vegetables. So it's you know, these businesses need to be aware, and that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to start Vacayability, not only for people that are chronically ill, but have accessibility be more a priority and on the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, I think it's super great what you're doing. I really love that.
Yeah, so I hope you go on the website and write a review for that cafe place. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Now we're going to shift gears again a little bit, and we're going to play a lightning round travel game. Okay. So answer the questions with the first thing that comes to your mind. All right. Okay. And it's not that hard, no pressure. So what is the favorite place or city or attraction that you've ever been to?
Ooh, I would say I really love Harry Potter World in Universal Studios.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun. I've been there.
Yes. I've been a couple times, once when I was younger, and then a couple times when I'm older. I would go so much more if it wasn't so hard. Even, that's a big thing about Universal, going places like that when you're in a wheelchair.
I know.
And have a service dog. It is insane.
Yeah. It's such a large place, and especially an attraction that's specific. There's so many people, so it gets super hard to navigate sometimes. And then not only that, but the cost. It's expensive to go there. But it's worth it. So I agree with that.
Fun. I'm glad I did go.
Yeah. So what's an attraction you want to visit but you haven't been yet? Anywhere in the world?
I really want to go to Ireland someday.
Okay.
It's so beautiful there.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. So do you prefer beach or mountains?
I would say mountains.
All right. So, window seat or aisle seat on an airplane?
Window.
Oh.
But
Everybody has.
I actually don't get window seat that often because I have Chandler.
Right. And
They normally give me middle or like the aisle seat
right, because
anyways.
you need that space, yeah. Everybody says the
Yeah.
window seat, and I'm like, no, I love the aisle seat, so I can like stretch out and get up whenever I need to. And then I'm
That is
also kind of
funny.
like nosy, so I want to like look in the aisle and look at everybody. All right, so train or bus?
Train.
Yeah. What's one thing you always carry with you
Ooh.
besides your phone?
I would say. Ooh, that's hard. I guess I have like a little emergency bag that I try to keep with me all the time that
Yeah.
has like central line, G-tube supplies,
Yeah.
medication.
Yeah, because you never want to be without some of those things.
Yeah. Because the one time I forget it, I'll always
It'll be that one time. Yep. Yep. So, what's something you always forget to pack when you're traveling?
Something I've forgotten pretty often. It's always so annoying is poop bags for Chandler. And so then we'll always have to run in some kind of store to go find some.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I'm glad you at least pick up the poop because there are some people that
Yes.
don't, and that's annoying too.
Yeah, that is so annoying when people do that.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite self care activity?
Ooh. Honestly, for self-care, like most people think like, face mask, bath or something. For me, it's probably just letting myself rest in bed and crochet or read or something I enjoy and just letting myself rest without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with feeling guilty if I rest too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. I'm that type of way. All right, last one. What's your best piece of travel advice?
Ooh. Hmm. I would say if you are a mobility aid user, a fold-up cane is amazing. Because if you're going somewhere like one day you don't need your cane, but the next day you will, and can just pack it in your backpack or suitcase because it folds up. It is so nice.
Yeah.
And if you have a service dog, ADA cards are really helpful when you run into issues or just people that want to know more about service dogs. It can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the cane thing. I have a fold up cane, and sometimes when I don't need it, or like if I'm sitting for a long time, I'll just tuck it in like the side pocket of my backpack so it doesn't, I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it.
It's so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's our time with Allie today. If you want to
Thank
learn
you
more
so
about
much.
Allie, you can follow her. She plugged her Instagram, but here it is again. It's chronic.ally, ALLY, or chronically, on Instagram. You can tune into our next episode. You can subscribe on all platforms. You can follow our social media, and you can get to Allie's that way as well. Our social media is at Vacayability. You can also get our next release date. Also, don't forget to visit our website, www.vacayability.com, to rate and review your favorite businesses, attractions, hotels, and more, all based on different types of accessibility. Thanks, Allie.
Thank you.